Welcome to Reading the Bible Together, and today Genesis chapter 39 brings us back into the exciting epic of Joseph in Egypt. Now, we heard back in chapter 37 the story of Joseph's brothers and how their plan resulted in Joseph being sold into slavery in Egypt. Well, he's now the property of Potiphar, a powerful man with close connections to the Pharaoh himself. Turns out to have been a good purchase. We read in what was to become a repeated refrain that the Lord was with Joseph. Now, what you might not have noticed is that the Lord has been largely absent from the story of Joseph all the way back to chapter 37. Maybe we're being told something here, that the absence of the name of the Lord and the disastrous favoritism of Jacob and the arrogance of Joseph and the cruelty of his brothers is not part of the intention of the Lord, but that there's a lesson about to be revealed, that the Lord will bring blessing even through these most unlikely and unpromising of circumstances. So, despite his status as a household slave, Joseph's natural executive abilities lead to a quick rise in the hierarchy of servants, and soon he's in charge. He's the chief butler, as it were, like Carson in Downton Abbey, but better suited to skimpy Egyptian slave attire than Carson ever was. Now, Potiphar recognized when someone had the favor of the gods, or in this case, the favor of the Lord, and the text repeats itself like a refrain. Verses 2 through 6, kind of a repetitive round of blessing and trust. These types of repetition are a reminder of how these stories have a kind of internal rhythm to them, as for thousands of years, they were not so much read as memorized and told aloud. Classic Jewish scriptural reading to this day, as well as praying, is done in a sort of sing-song fashion, which is strange to our ears, but which comes quite naturally when being done in the Hebrew in which they were written and in which they were told. So, Joseph is in charge. Everything's going splendidly, which is a sign that trouble is not far away, and that trouble is foreshadowed in this way. Now, Joseph was well built and handsome. Not only talented, but good-looking too. The ancient rabbis, reflecting upon this verse, accused Joseph of exploiting his handsomeness, writing that he would stand in the marketplace, put makeup around his eyes, straighten up his hair, and swing his heels. So this apparently is a sort of thing frowned upon by ancient rabbis. No standing in the marketplace swinging your heels, whatever that means. But they're right in that being well-built and handsome, as I've personally learned, carries with it a certain danger, as the next line tells us. After a while, his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." Actually, the literal translation is, "Come lie with me," which I prefer, as in English it carries the double entendre of both the sin and the deception which would necessarily follow. Now, Joseph's response is largely a repetition of the previous passage, recounting the authority placed in Joseph's hands, which stops just short, mind you, of the marriage bed. The ancient rabbis comment on this response quite critically, observing that Joseph is, in effect, bragging, reflecting the high opinion of himself that so enraged his brothers and which perhaps even initially attracted the attention of Potiphar's wife. However, once Joseph is done explaining how wonderful he is, he says to her, "How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" Now, to our modern minds, the wicked thing is the sexual act. But to Joseph and to those in the ancient world, it's understood that the sin, the wicked thing, would actually be the violation of the trust which Potiphar has placed in Joseph and of the authority and responsibility Joseph has been given. In any case, to Joseph's credit, we read that though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. But she's undeterred, and the moment arrives. She sends all the household servants outside, thinking that Joseph will accede to her demands if there are no witnesses. She grabs his cloak, his garment, says Hebrew. Imagine one of those Egyptian linen type things you see in tomb paintings. And she repeats her demand. But Joseph wisely runs, shedding his garment, but not his resolve. I can't help but think of the scene in Mark's gospel when at the arrest of Jesus, a young man, perhaps even Mark himself, is grabbed by his sidun, effectively his undergarment, and he runs away naked. We aren't told if Joseph was left entirely unclothed, but in any case, running away was a good plan. Perhaps if the Lord's Prayer had said, "Help us to run away from temptation," instead of "Lead us not into temptation," we would have better understood. Well, back to our story. Potiphar's wife, enraged at this final snub by a servant, no matter how powerful, not to mention well-built and handsome, calls the household staff inside and cries, "Rape," still clutching the aforementioned garment as evidence. She increases the charge by playing the race card. This Hebrew has been brought to us to fool with us. Well, the implication is that no Egyptian would ever do such a thing, but you know what these foreigners are like. Sadly, such prejudices between ethnic groups and the resultant unjust accusations and suspicions of criminal behavior are all too current in our day. Upon Potiphar's return home, the story is repeated. And Potiphar, incidentally, himself is also being blamed. "That Hebrew slave you brought us, this is how your slave treated me," and the accusations hit him hard. He burns, we are told, with anger. Soon, Joseph is arrested and thrown into the prison reserved for offenses against the crown, federal prison, as it were. So, that's it for Joseph. Promising start, bad ending. But wait, there's more. In the same way that Joseph's presence in the Potiphar household brought blessing, and even in the same language, we're told, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. The exact same words, the exact same blessings, the exact same result of Joseph's introduction into the Potiphar household happening all over again, but now in jail. Remember again, this story is like a song. There's a chorus once more, but with the warden rather than Potiphar singing it and recognizing the blessing of God upon Joseph. Now, who will the blessing of God come to next? Who will recognize that the hand of God is upon Joseph next? Find out next time in Genesis chapter 40 as we continue to read the Bible together. And we will see you then.